Willkommen auf Hockenheimring. Guten Abend for this fourth round of the third season of iRacing UK Formula 3 League, here live and exclusive on the iRacing UK and Total Sim Sport Twitch and YouTube channels, respectively. We at Total Sim Sport are proud to present you with this evening's racing, which is brought to you via iRacing, the world's premier motorsport simulator. I am your host, Nick Allen, and of course, behind the scenes this evening is Chris Rowlands, who, as usual, will be bringing you all the angles of tonight's racing. However, he's not going to be the loquacious type this evening, and that's because we have a fresh voice for you here tonight in the Formula 3 League on your Tuesday evening, and that comes in the form of Seb Bosher-Williams. So good evening, Seb, and welcome to your first night here with us watching the open wheelers of iRacing UK. How the devil are you, and more importantly, are you looking forward to our little tour de Hockenheim this evening?
Good evening, Chris. Good evening, Nick. I'm already getting it wrong. And good evening to everybody watching. I am excited to watch the action unfold, and delighted that I've been asked to commentate on this F3 League. It's the action has always been great, and I'm looking forward to seeing it unfold. Hockenheim is such a great track for racing, and I'm really looking forward to seeing these F3 machines go around here side by side, and hoping for some great action here today.
Thank you, Tim, Chris, Sean, James. Yeah, thank you very much for joining us here. Always great to have another voice, another opinion, another option for someone to talk about when we're going through. And I mean, it's essentially like a conversation this evening, isn't it? You know, we get to chat about the fantastic action that these guys are going to put on for us here around Hockenheim, and it's just like watching your favourite racing on the telly. Now, the format for this evening at 10 to 8 this evening, there was a driver briefing, and then following on from that, an open practice session between 8 and 9 p.m. They've been on the track now qualifying for about 10 minutes, and they're going to be doing that for another 10 minutes until about 20 past 9. Now, after that qualifying session, we'll go on to a race which should last us about 30 minutes approximately. There's 100% fuel, no limits there, so no requirement for any pit stops. So yes, approximately 30 minutes for our race length this evening. Right, now, while we're just talking about that format, as you can see, all of the drivers this evening are out qualifying in an open qualifying format for 20 minutes. Now, this presents itself with obviously some unique challenges compared to the official races, in which normally you have your lone qualifying session where you have a couple of laps to go out and set a time of your choosing. Now, the slipstream will play into some people's hands here this evening. I think some drivers preferring this open format because they can take advantage of that. Other drivers not really enjoying it as much on the basis that they can't quite find the right time to get the car out around the circuit, so they have an opportunity to put in that flying lap without getting caught up behind someone either having a spin or someone being slower ahead of them. I mean, Seb, in your opinion, open or closed kind of qualifying format, which would you prefer to see in leagues in the future?
I think personally, I love an open qualifying format. I think it not only is it more realistic, and it emulates more of real world motorsport, but for me it's just easier. You can have more laps, and it takes some of the skill into qualifying. You know, qualifying is all about making sure that you get that perfect lap, and you're able to produce the lap in maybe circumstances that are not optimal. And whether you have a driver ahead of you, or you get the slipstream, or you see somebody spin, sometimes that's just more fun. And I think that pole in open qualifying is maybe just that little bit more deserved than in closed qualifying. But I do see it from both sides, and I mean, especially if after a poor qualifying and you've all your laps have been ruined, and of course you'd rather close qualifying, but I think it's more fun.
So it sounds like realism equals better in this in this debate in the commentary. If I agree with you there, I think the open qualifying format makes it much more dynamic, much more realistic, and gives our drivers something a bit different to think about in their leagues versus how they operate in the officials. Now, we're talking about qualifying. We should talk about the current standings. So as you can see at the top of the tables there, Jerome Lamy, a familiar name, and someone who consistently has been quick around all of the leagues that we've seen him in from seasons 2 up to present. So Gavin Petty, though, also very closely behind him at the minute. He was the winner of the last race, triumphant once again after Will Redford had victory at Watkins Glen and Snetterton before him. Suzuka obviously just hitting the sweet spot for Gavin. He was pretty much unchallenged for the majority of that race, while the rest of the pack behind him did all the fighting. Speaking of that last race, we had some brilliant winners in that race, and they didn't have to be on the podium. The likes of Paul Busby, who started 34th on the grid all the way at the back pretty much and made his way up to 13th. That was with a damaged car as well towards the end. I'm not sure if Busby's on the grid this evening. I haven't actually seen his name. I haven't seen his name yet. Oh yeah, he is. He's down there. I don't think we've got a time for him at the minute, so he's down in 32nd at the moment, but hopefully we'll see a similar performance from Paul. He had an absolutely storming first lap in that last race. I think he gained somewhere in the region of 10 or 12 places in the first couple of laps or something daft like that, so he was absolutely unstoppable throughout the start. Matt Laubscher actually was a bit of a loser. Matt Laubscher, sorry. A bit of a loser in that race, unfortunately. Down from 4th position to 14th. He was one of the unfortunate people who took a spin in that race, thus losing a lot of places. Lee Aberdeen came in 3rd position. You can see him currently challenging for 3rd in the qualifying session with only 5 minutes left. Here we are. We're actually going to go over to Lee now. Maybe we'll get a bit of an onboard and you can follow him around the circuit as he just comes into the stadium section now to finish up his current qualifying lap. Here we are on board, so we'll keep you on board with him for a minute while we just talk about a few of the other drivers from the kind of top 15 of the last race. Now, Josh Wilson, he came in P5 in the last race. Josh, obviously from the commentary team as well, you will have heard him talking about the Snetterton race with me earlier this month. So a great addition to the commentary team, and really a great example, a great addition to the race circuit as well, because when he's out there, he's able to give us all of the great info on all the moves he's going to be pulling. And in the last race at Suzuka, we actually followed Josh through a number of examples of overtakes that he told us were going to be perfectly possible throughout the race. So we'll be heading over to Josh to watch a few moves, I'm sure, throughout the remainder of this evening at Hockenheim. So continuing on board with Lee Aberdeen, there's a few people struggling out there on the tarmac this evening, a few spinners that he's just been round. There's just been the hairpin there, Seb. Now, in terms of overtaking spots here at Hockenheim, I believe you've recently been spending a bit of time here. Where for you are going to be the opportune kind of moments on the circuit for these guys to get those overtakes done?
I think the classical spot around Hockenheim is obviously the hairpin. You've got that nice long straight, even though it's not technically a straight, where you can slipstream and either go around the outside or even down the inside. But I think if you're feeling quite adventurous, Sachs Curve has always been a good one. I've always enjoyed going down the inside there. Turn 1 is very risky, but again, I have seen some moves there too. And also the turn 8 in the stadium section, that's a very good place to overtake, because if you don't get the move done in the hairpin, you could just slot in behind them and just follow them through into the stadium section. So watch out for that during the race.
Absolutely. So we have got the championship standings for you here now on the screen. So at the top of the table at the moment, Rhys Saunders with 247 points, so a good commanding lead from Rhys. He's closely followed by Lee. I should just add that Rhys Saunders not racing with us tonight, I believe. So the other competitors will be able to obviously pick up a bit of the deficit there and close the gap up to Rhys. Specifically Lee, who obviously still in P3 at the moment, is qualifying, pushing very hard, and hopefully we'll see him overtake Rhys maybe this evening. Scott Tuffy is in 3rd position, and you've got Will Redford, our two-time race winner, actually there in 4th. So then we've got Sam Herman, Stuart Milne, Ryan Micallef, Alistair Hay, James Cockram, Jack Ralph, Sean Barnett, Jerome Lamy, Mitchell Webb, Patrick Rowlands, Duncan Watts, Martin Devine, Dare Flock, and then Stephen Hobbs there in 18th. Now, we do obviously have a lot more drivers on that list. We won't go through all of them tonight. We'll be reading a list as long as your arm. So we'll go back now to the qualifying action that is just now sort of getting to a close. Only 2 minutes now left for these guys to put the laps in. And the laps being about 1:30 at the minute. There's possibly a chance to start a second one. I believe when the clock counts down to 20, that's it. Their time is over. I think they can finish the last lap in this open qualifier, but that's all they'll get.
You see a little bit of racing there. Yeah, I think can't quite see the number, but you saw the 21 car try and dive down the inside of the number 20 car. That's not what you want on your qualifying lap for either of them, and I think he might have just ruined both of their laps there. So that was James Parfitt, of course, one of our commentators here. So I don't think he'd be best pleased with that move on his final qualifying lap.
No, not really what we want to see in the qualifying section. It's not going to get you the optimal time trying to dance around each other. Although we did say they will get probably one more in if they're quick about it, just towards the end of this session. Jerome Lamy still pinning himself to the top of the table at the minute. Great to see him putting in the laps and the performance. Here he is, putting it incredibly wide into the final corner there as he comes over the line for a flying lap. He has gone absolutely rapid there. He's about a 10th up on Gavin Petty with a 1:30.4. So brilliant time from Jerome. I'm sure we'll be keeping an eye on him as usual throughout the evening. Now, if you want to get involved in any of this action, you can head over to www.facebook.com/iRacing UK. You can head over there and ask for an invitation to the Discord if you want to join the iRacing UK leagues. You can also hit them up on twitter.com/iRUK. That's IRUK_team. Same on Instagram. If you want to get involved in watching more of these broadcasts, head over to Twitter and follow us at Total Simsport. Now, okay, we've obviously got some history here at Hockenheim, with this circuit previously being known as a bit of an engine breaker with those incredibly long straights, which were later replaced, or they added in the chicanes around the circuit to slow the cars down and prevent any further tragedies around the circuit. Now, it's a polarizing mix of kind of straights and technical stadium sections nowadays. One of the most notable sections, as you said earlier, we're probably going to see some overtakes, Seb, is that very long run down into the hairpin. Now, if I was to have a little look at the more recent history of this circuit, the 2019 race, for example, that was the year of the cursed Mercedes livery, wasn't it? They had the very spectacular German celebration dress-up weekend and a livery, and I think did both cars go off on this layout in that weekend?
They did, both at turn one.
Incredible. I mean, there was a number of spinners. There was, I think, just having a little look from my list, Sainz, Leclerc, Perez, all experienced drivers who have got their history on the grid, and some of the younger ones as well, with the, equally talented. Hulkenberg as well, Bottas, we said, already. So it was a real kind of the switch to slicks caught a lot of people out. People, there was some drivers who really managed to take advantage of the conditions just through using their experience, and that was people like Sebastian Vettel, who went famously from P20 to P2 on that race weekend after having power unit problems getting out in Q1 on the Saturday. So making up 6 places off the start. Let's see if anybody can make up 6 places off the start today. Although the delicate car control required in those kind of treacherous conditions of wet won't be required, as we obviously don't have the virtual rain here in iRacing this evening. So yes, Chris whispers in my ear in the background there. So absolutely. Well, looking further back in history, you'll also remember this is actually famously in 1982, where Nelson Piquet and Elisa Salazar collided in the chicane when Piquet was lapping him. And then there's camera footage of that famous kind of kung fu action fight where PK's angry and throwing the kung fu moves at Salazar by the roadside while the race is still going on. So how things have changed around the rules of trackside conduct in the last few years. Now, the drivers are going to be getting ready to grid up now, so let's read you out the order here. Jerome Lamy brings it up in P1. He's joined by Gavin Petty on the front row. Following them on row 2 is Lee Aberdeen and Alistair Hay. After that, we've got Scott Tuffy and Dan Mould. Dan Mould was looking incredibly strong in the early part of this qualifying. He was actually top of the table, but now down in P6, he rests. Hopefully a good starting position for Dan. Josh Wilson, our commentary hero, in 7th, followed by Sam Herman in 8th. Then we've got Ben White, Stuart Milne, Dare Flock, and Matt Laubscher there in 12th. A little bit out of position for Matt Laubscher there, I would say. James Cockram in 13th, followed by Alex Hopkins, Sean Barnett, Ryan Annals, Jack Ralph, Chris Robinson, Craig Walters, Fraser Garrity, Stephen Hobbs, Patrick Rowlands, Mitchell Webb, and then we've got James Parfitt there in 24th, followed by Martin Devine, Andrew Morris, Mark Hudson, Duncan Watts, Craig Tillotson, Colin Nichol, David Hatton, Roxy Gibson, Paul Busby, Matt Cox, and finally in 35th there, that's Mark Murphy at the back of the grid. We're just waiting for the drivers to grid up now and get themselves ready to start racing this evening. I'm sure we're going to have plenty to look out for when the lights go green. Now, Seb, not going to be long now, just a few more of them to grid up. If you had to put your money on any driver this evening, who would it be?
I think it's got to be Jerome. He just looked so quick in qualifying, and when Gavin was struggling to go quicker, he could just keep on adding. You know, he ended up going even quicker on his final lap. So my money's on him. He's so quick at the moment. But what I've noticed is that there are some cars that are actually gridding around the final corner, and they're at a huge disadvantage for when they get off the line. They've got to be so careful that they don't just spin out from the start, because if you've got a bit of steering lock in as you pull the clutches for the start, it could be disastrous. So really not the best grid for starting so low down. So watch out for that at the start.
Well, here come the lights, Seb. So we're going to be watching these guys get off underway now. Here they go. We are go in this round of Formula 3 here at Hockenheim for the third season of the iRacing UK League. And Jerome Lamy's got a commanding start there by the looks of it. He's got around the first corner with no trouble at all. We've got cars going 2, 3 wide, round into turn 1. Here they come now into turn 2. Will they be able to maintain that level of discipline? It looks like they will. Jerome Lamy stays ahead for the moment, but Gavin Petty following very closely behind, and Lee Aberdeen under pressure from teammate of Petty, Scott Tuffy there. Alistair Hay has dropped back one position by the looks of it at the minute, and Dan Mole maintaining his current form in 6th. Jerome Lamy under pressure here, being followed. They're going 4 wide here, down into the hairpin. Someone's going to come off poorly here. It's all going to end in tears, but no, it looks okay. All bit of a lock up there. Cars going wide, and they're still all going too wide into the hairpin. Brilliant stuff there from all the drivers. I think everyone's gotten through that relatively clean without any damage or major offs. So that's brilliant to see. Josh Wilson drops down to 8th, but back up into 7th by looks. Big fight here. Josh Wilson up the inside, bumps it over that curb. Great performance there from Josh. Brilliant moves. Now Jerome is staying about 3/10 ahead of Petty in the front of the order at the minute, but I think there's a more interesting battle forming up here in the mid-pack, with cars still trying to go too wide, even into the later stages of this first lap. It has not settled down one bit. Alistair Hay here coming around Spitz curve, sorry, I think that's Sachs curve, and into the stadium section. He's dropped one position, I believe, at the minute to Scott Tuffy, who's now managed to also get his way around Lee Aberdeen. So Scott Tuffy, another one of the strong contenders out here this evening, making his way up the order. Jerome Lamy puts in the fastest lap, with Gavin Petty not far behind him. Brilliant stuff off the start of this race. Now we're going to be on board here with Dan Mould.
You can see...
Sorry, go on, Seb.
Sorry to cut in there. You could just see the amount of understeer that he had following Alistair through turn 1. You've got to be so careful with the dirty air here. And you just saw that he almost lost it on the curb. Yeah, clearly got to be really careful in the slipstream.
These cold tyres at this point in the early point of the race, it's not worth taking any risks when we've got obviously another 15 laps of this to go. Josh Wilson really having a good look in behind this pair here, isn't he? Josh Wilson really wants a piece of Alistair Hay and Dan Mould. He knows he's got the pace, and I think, look here, he's lining up the move. There's got to be something to take advantage of, but I don't think it's quite going to be here. He's going to go too wide with Alistair Hay as he tucks in behind Dan Mould. Oh, there's been contact, possible netcode contact there. I think that didn't look close enough, but Josh Wilson being one and Dan Mould also having come off a little bit worse there than Josh, but Josh lost a lot of pace as well. So Dan Mould now down into 14th. That is a shame. That really wasn't Dan's fault there. Let's see if we can get a little bit of a replay. Here's Dan Mould. Oh no, we're going to go on with Josh Wilson. So he gets down on the right-hand side there of Alistair Hay, deep in on the brakes. Oh, there might have just been contact, but also it was close enough to kind of constitute a bit of netcode. We'll have to, maybe we'll see a different angle of that at some point, but we won't dwell on it too much for now. We'll go back to Josh, who actually managed to maintain 7th position there off the back of that. Now, Sam Herman ahead of him. Now, Sam, incredibly quick driver is Sam Herman, and Josh is going to have a hard time catching up to the back of Sam. Again, Sam, the teammate, I believe, of Gavin Petty with that matching livery, I think. And the other problem that we've got here is James Cockram now is getting a little bit of a sniff up behind Josh Wilson. And James has been incredibly competitive in a number of the races in which we've seen him in this league before. It looks, though, like he's got his own fight on his hands, with Ben White trying to sneak around the outside, taking advantage of that slipstream on the long straight there. Is he going to try and go down the inside into the hairpin? He's had a look. he's left room for him to go round, but it's not quite worked out for Ben on this occasion, and James Cochran managed to stay ahead, and he had to try and stay in the fight with Josh Wilson ahead as well.
You could see that, you know, it's such an art as we see the number 29 car going down the inside of the Mercedes corner that we've seen last lap.
Matt Laubscher.
Matt Laubscher. That's he's managed to hold on to the position, go around the outside. That's a very impressive move. As now the number 82 car is now taking advantage as you go around the turn, I think that's 10, intersects curve now. Make sure he gets the braking. You don't want to do what we saw last lap and just get your braking a bit too late and end up going into the car ahead, but that's all nicely held as we head on to the end of the lap. It's
okay. Let's go over to Sam Herman because he's under pressure from Josh Wilson. We were saying a minute ago that this was going to be a bit of a challenge for Josh possibly, but it looks to me like Sam Herman not got the same pace as Josh at the moment, and Josh has just managed to creep that a little bit further away from James Cochran behind him. But the problem's going to be here that Sam Herman ahead, obviously slowing Josh down. He wants to get round as quick as he can. If he can't do it on this long straight here down into the hairpin, I think he's going to have a problem with James Cochran sneaking up behind him as Sam slows him down a little bit. The next challenger after that's going to be Alistair Hay. Let's see what Josh fancies here. Not really going to be close enough to try and do it into the hairpin. James Cochran has a little look in the back there, just sniffing round. Ben White's the one that's putting him under pressure though, and Josh and James don't quite spar on this occasion, and Sam Herman also lives to drive another lap ahead of Wilson. We're going to go to a replay now of Alex Hopkins, who's had an incident further back in the field. This was going down into the hairpin. They're two abreast here, almost three. And he looks like he's lost it all on his own, actually, there. Oh, unfortunately, he picked up another car in the wake of that accident. Unfortunate there. Not much he could have done about that being stationary. Now, James Cochran seems to have just tucked up a bit closer in behind Josh, and Sam Herman seems to have grown the gap ahead, Seb. Now, it looks to me like either Josh has had a bit of an incident, a bit of a whoopsie that's put him offline, or James has just had an absolutely stonking lap.
Just looking at the lap times, I think James has just had just a bloody great lap. So yeah, action everywhere. We saw the spin there at the hairpin. That's a real shame, but on board, actually, the camera flicks around a little bit. So we have a look now at Chris Robinson and the number 24 car behind him having a look, but thankfully decides to back out of that one. You can it's always worth just sticking behind the car rather than just like ducking and diving every corner. But as you can see now, he's got the run onto the straight as we have a look at a little bit of the replay.
Big wreck here, big wreck. That's Paul Busby off the circuit there. So let's see if we can get a little bit further ahead. We've got 4 cars here on the replay. Oh, one missed there.
There's another car off as well there.
We've got another one off. This is a very big incident. That's unfolded over about 2 corners worth there, and there's so many cars that have been caught up in that. Now there is protest forms available to the drivers after this race, so I'm sure if there is anybody that's feeling like they've been fouled from that, I'm sure it'll get mentioned after the race. Now let's see who are the real winners then after that situation. I'm not sure. I think that was further back in the order, isn't it? So where we're looking at Sean Barnett here up in 9th, I don't think he's really been affected by that at all. If anything, he's probably quite glad to be at the top half of the order, although he won't be glad to see who is behind him in 10th position. That is Matt Laubscher, the car number 29, who we've seen charging through. We said that he was a little bit out of position there on the grid after qualifying, and he's certainly proving that point at the minute by making his way slowly but surely up the order and chewing away at the places. Now there's a lot of cars ahead of him that I think are very, very close behind and also racing each other, which means Matt will have every opportunity available to him ahead to gain with his obviously superior pace. James Parfitt currently in 13th as well. He's looking quite strong there in the mid-pack. We should just say that the gap at the front of the order between Jerome Lamy and Gavin Petty sits at 2 seconds. Now, we really, really hope that Jerome can maintain that, if even not grow that gap. We've seen him have so much success in the past driving this Formula 3 car, but unfortunately we've also seen a lot of drama for him, a lot of tragedy on other races. So we really hope to see him. We're going to go to another replay here. This is Matt Laubscher getting that move done on Barnett. That's for 9th position, so up the inside of the hairpin. Lovely, very smooth, buttery smooth there from Matt. Great to see.
Is you a minute ago asked who are the biggest gainers in that incident, and I think James Parfit is probably the biggest one. I mean, he must have gained 4 or 5 or even 6 positions. That was a crazy crash, and just goes to show that I think one of the car has had a damaged rear suspension, and you just got to be careful in a new damaged model, maybe catching some drivers out. But as we ride back on board, and we see Matt Laubscher in the lead, but closely followed by the number 19 car of Sean Barnett right behind him. Clearly not that happy that he's been overtaken. As we ride on board with the leader, he's got nobody around him. He doesn't need to look at his mirrors. He can just focus. This is quite a dominant performance. You might even say Sebastian Vettel-esque. There's been, races when you...
Yeah, well, I mean, we said a minute ago that gap was about 2 seconds, and now it looks like he's just grown another 0.3 on that. So, I can see somebody possibly spun off in the background there. It's a different part of the circuit, I think, but that is where Jerome is going to be coming around to. So hopefully we'll have some clear tarmac there in a moment. Now, just looking at the time scale, I think Alistair Hay and Sam Herman are trying to trade places at the minute. Sam very close behind. Let's get you a little... replay here. Sam Herman round the outside, very bold. He's going to tuck it in for that slightly kind of sneaky cutback maneuver. Round onto the inside he tucks, and then down he goes on the right there, and Alistair Hay can't really... Oh, a bit of a naughty sort of dive bomb-ish kind of, I'm not even sure what you'd call that, a bit of a swerve there almost, but nonetheless those guys will continue to battle it out. Alistair Hay 5/10 behind at the moment. Actually dropping back a little bit further, 7/10 now. So Sam Herman, Gavin Petty, I think we've lost Gavin Petty somewhere. He's dropping down the order, which means that Scott Tuffy's now been promoted up to 2nd. Let's see if we can get a replay of that. There he is off the circuit. I don't think that was the crux of the incident.
He's just touched the grass. He's just gone too wide. He's touched the grass. I'm pretty sure what he would have done is just put the rear tyres on the grass. That's a bit of an unforced error there for him. That's a big shame for Gavin up in... I think he was running in P3 there. That's a real big shame for him.
He was chasing P2. He was behind Jerome, so he was in P2. Yeah, so that's him down to 11th now. So that's double digits, right? So
it's unfortunate.
It's a shame. He'd been very strong, but I guess if you're chasing that hard, that's just the way it goes. Look at him here now. So down 9 places, but I'm sure he'll make very, very short work of Dan here up the inside of the hairpin. We did see how quick Dan was earlier, but obviously, unfortunately, got caught up in those incidents earlier on in the race. There you go. Brilliant move from Gavin, tucks it in, and he's back up into the top 10 positions. Let's see what he can do with half the race remaining now. We're at the halfway mark, 8 laps out of 16. Looks like Mould wants to put on a bit of a challenge here, but Gavin Petty unbothered and continues now very smoothly into the stadium section. We'll see if Dan puts on another challenge onto the pit straight, but I think if I know Gavin Petty, he'll be cruising away into the distance in no time.
That's true. Another person that we lost from the order as well was we were talking about earlier, Matt Cox. He's retired to the pit, so something clearly has also happened to him. But Gavin's got to be careful here, because after that mistake, you can get very angry behind the car. You can start to overdrive the car. So he's just got to calm it down, cool it. He's got the pace. He just needs to push in, and he's gaining rapidly on Sean in P9. So I think there's still a good result for him there. And as you rightly point out, we still got almost half the race to go. So still some good points to be had as we have a look at James Cockram that's currently chasing down Joshua Wilson up ahead. He's 7/10 behind, so definitely got the use of the slipstream. I think Josh is probably just a little bit outside the window for slipstream, so you'd say in terms of advantage straight line speed with slipstream, James has got a bit of the advantage, but he's not gaining too much on the straight. Of course, this is an open league, so you can change setups, so everybody can be running different downforce levels. It's a real interesting thing, and something that I always personally like to see is like who's more confident to run less downforce to make sure that they can be quicker in a straight line, and it's easier to defend and overtake. But of course, you've got to be more confident in the car. As we see a little bit of action going on here. That was a bit of a late move, it looked like, by Marcus Hudson, but behind him, Patrick is going to have a run back at him. He's not going to take that lying down. Actually, I think that might be a lapped car. Is that the number 55 car?
No, I think it's 55. It's
Yeah, so
Martin
he's a
Devine.
lap down. So he's got no interest here other than just to have fun. Is the number 48 car is going to... Wow, that was a late braking move. I didn't think he
there you go.
was going to make the apex.
That's given Devine the opportunity there now to dive down the inside. I think was Devine possibly caught up in the incident earlier that we saw on screen. So he might well be unlapping himself compared to the other drivers here. So I mean, car 55 definitely got he's got the faster lap compared to these other drivers behind him. So I think he'd be quite happy to have managed to slide through there and get himself ahead. Now Jerome still now 5 seconds ahead of P2 and then Lee Aberdeen chasing 3/10 behind Scott Tuffy at the minute. So we might have to have a little look at that fight in a minute. But we're currently with Alex Hopkins. So Alex down 5 positions. Looks like who was that just going wide on the outside? I think that was Craig Tillotson. Letting some of these guys by. Let's have a little look. Here's Craig. He's on the same lap actually, so he wasn't letting them by, and he's just run it wide, and they've just they've snuck through. That's 3 places lost in one corner. That's really gutting when you just sort of watch them all filter past you, and you can do absolutely nothing about it. Now, you were mentioning earlier about James Cockram chasing 7/10 behind Joshua Wilson. Now, I don't think that's the fight that we want to watch because Matt Laubscher behind him now 2/10. We've been covering Matt's recovery fight through the field on a number of occasions this evening, and we're going to go back to it now because I think it might just be hammer time for Laubscher as he gets right up into the rear wing of Cockram here, and this is Josh Wilson's opportunity to take advantage of Matt obviously putting the pressure on James. So Matt will try and overtake. There's every chance that they'll have to go side by side. That could give Wilson those delicate couple of tenths that allows him to step out of the slipstream a little bit and maybe just gain a bit of lap time and grow that gap away from his competitors and try and solidify that 6th position, that he's fighting for very, very hard at the moment. So here we go again. We're with Dan Mould. So Dan, obviously, who we saw get a bit involved in some incidents earlier, he's got Gavin Petty having just gone around him. He's still chasing very close behind. We thought that Gavin would possibly grow the gap, but maybe those other runners like Sean Barnett ahead just slowing Gavin down a little bit, meaning that he hasn't been able to creep away from Dan as much as he would have liked. Dan was very, very quick through the early portion of this race and in qualifying. I remember he was on about the 3rd row, so he's definitely got the pace to be competitive here, but at the minute he's not quite able to hang on and get it ahead of Petty. So he's not even managed to get it around Sean Barnett there, has he? Look, he's really struggled to get it around Sean. Not quite as smooth as Petty's manoeuvre to get up into that P8 position. P9 even, should I say.
So as we have a look, and there's a battle currently. I think the number 1 car, Samuel Herman, is dropping down the field, so something's happened to him. As we are currently looking at... We're just going to go to replay, because that's huge implications. What's going to happen? Oh, no!
Is that Roxy? I think that might be Roxy Gibson that got tagged there, possibly.
Sort of a little bit of a miscommunication there. I think that he didn't realise that Roxy would be going so slow, but it's of course in iRacing.
It was, yeah.
I don't know about this league, but in normal iRacing, let's have a look at it again. It's just a bit of a clumsy move there. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I think Roxy had moved out far enough to the right there. Sam went for a deep swooping manoeuvre and perhaps just closed in a bit quicker than he thought he would, and subsequently that's both the drivers facing the wrong direction. So bit of a shame there. Lap 12, here we are. 4 more to go after this. Oh, we're going to go to a little bit of action here. Back down in the kind of P10 area. Sean Barnett, Dan Mould and Gavin Petty fight still underway here. We've got a lap car there just letting the guys through. Gavin Petty hasn't snuck away yet. He's got a bit more of a gap to Dan Mould than he had previously. Sean Barnett almost doing a bit of a favour there and holding up Dan Mould, who in car number 80 is desperate to get ahead and up into those top 10 positions after having qualified so well earlier this evening. Jerome 5.3 seconds ahead further up the field. Lee Aberdeen still chasing very, very hard behind Scott Tuffy. Now, we have not been watching this at all this evening, and I don't think the gap has been quite this close, so we're joining them at the opportune moment to hopefully see some kind of manoeuvre. Lee 3/10 behind. He's going to have a bit of a drag, obviously, down the long straight into the hairpin here. Let's see if he's going to be able to get brave. He's got a good, clean exit by the looks of it there, and he's staying nice and close in behind Tuffy as we go to the rear wing view of Scott Tuffy's car there. 3/10 still, 2/10. That gap is creeping down, but I don't think Lee's going to be close enough to make a manoeuvre. Is he going to be? They're side by side now. Lee's on the outside. He could do it here. He looks like he's just about ahead. Could he get the switchback manoeuvre here around Tuffy? No, he's stayed on the wider line, tried to give his competitor plenty of room, and that just hasn't worked out for him. He probably could have been a bit braver there, I think, and possibly managed to get it round Tuffy, but that was an obvious display of respect between the drivers. With a few laps to go, they don't quite want to end it yet, and there's a few more opportunities coming for Lee Aberdeen to make his way up into that not next spot. Now, Herman and Laubscher swapping places a little bit here into the hairpin. We know that both of these guys are very competitive. Sam Herman dropped down a few places from that earlier incident, and now he's going side by side, as you can see in this replay. Laubscher tucks it in on the inside, but that means that Herman's got the inside on the next corner for the left-hander, but Laubscher pushes it round the outside, gets that traction, and manages to keep it ahead for now. Back to Lee Aberdeen in car 122. I really fancy Lee Aberdeen's chances of making his way up to second, Seb. I don't know about you.
I think so. I think you're right. He could have been more aggressive into the hairpin on the last lap, but he's right to just play it a bit safe. He's still got 2 more racing laps to complete, so you don't want to go and throw it all away over a silly move when you can wait until the last lap and just make sure that you take the least amount of risk as possible. But it's actually dropped back a little bit this lap, so I think he's a little bit too far back. I also think that Scott did a really good job of actually identifying what Lee was doing and trying to get the switchback. So he just stayed on the inside just to block off that switchback maneuver. But you can see that Scott is really pushing at the moment. He lit the rear tires up coming out of the hairpin in that tricky traction phase, and Lee is right behind him again. And if you're Scott, you've got to make sure that you're not looking in your mirrors too much. You've just got to look ahead. If you start driving defensively and if you start defending fresh air, Lee will just be passing a flash. But as we go on, look as it goes side by side between Sean Barnett and Dan Mole. This battle's been going on for a while now.
Well, speaking of passing the flash, that was passing the flash there, wasn't it? Dan Mole managing to finally sneak it round Sean Barnett. That was great to see. Oh, very wide there from Sean, car number 19. So they've been fighting very, very hard for quite a while. So great to see that battle coming to fruition. Now, Scott Tuffy, he's not out of the woods yet. Again, another lap to go, and he's got Lee Aberdeen really breathing down his neck. Jerome Lamy, in the meantime, just needs to keep it together, 6 seconds ahead of this pack, and Scott Tuffy is probably going to have a bit of traffic ahead of him here. So this could be the moment where Lee Aberdeen actually gets to pounce, because if Scott Tuffy hits this traffic at the wrong moment in the lap, that is not going to do him any good at all. So car number 18, I would say that is just looking up the order, I can't quite see, Colin Nicol ahead of him. So Lee really, really close in behind Scott there, and Colin Nicol hopefully going to be able to just get out of the way here, but he's going to stay ahead of Scott Tuffy as they go into the right-hander here. I don't know that that's going to be much appreciated when these guys are fighting for podium positions. This could get really hairy in a minute. We've seen it get hairy with back markers already, and he's still not really getting in a position where Scott can easily get past him. Oh, there we go. Dives to the right there, and finally this battle can continue Oh, we've got actually a Alistair Hay being passed here on a replay. Quickly, we're just going to line up here. Josh Wilson gets passed on the inside. Brilliant stuff there. Yeah, that was expert, wasn't it? Kicking the rear end up there on the exit. Really, really great to see. Lee Aberdeen here going into the final lap. He's still behind Scott Tuffy into the white flag lap here. So This is it now. Last chance saloon. There's not going to be any more after this. Only a few corners for Lee Aberdeen to make his way around. He's 5/10 back at the minute. It's half a second he's got to make up in this last lap. And if we've seen anything so far, we know that some of these drivers are getting the tyres really lit up on the exit of those of the hairpin at the minute. So it could be all down to traction as we come now into the long straight. Slipstream just going to trim off those tenths for Lee Aberdeen here. Josh Wilson currently running in 4th. Brilliant position from him. A brilliant performance from him. If it all goes wrong for P2 and P3 here, he could be the one that picks up the pieces if there's an incident. Let's watch now Scott Tuffy's rear wing as we see Lee Aberdeen 4/10 now, closing in really, really tight behind his competitor, swooping right-hander before they head down into Sachs Curve and finally the stadium section. I don't think that Scott has got anything to worry about. He's driving ever so smoothly here. Lee Aberdeen, though, really pushing every inch of the tarmac that he can to try and make sure that he maximizes the speed in that car. I don't know that he's going to be able to do it, though, because Scott runs incredibly wide there. Has he lost any speed? I don't think so. Lee gets very, very close into braking. A little bit of a lockup. Jerome Lamy just going to go over the line now for his first F3 League win. Brilliant stuff there from Jerome Lamy, a commanding race with about a 6.5 second gap. And in the distance, you can see there that Lee Aberdeen comes in 3rd behind Scott Tuffy after an incredibly competitive race there at the front of the order. Josh Wilson in 4th. Brilliant stuff from Josh, coming up from about 7th position that was. And then Alistair Hay behind him and James Cockram manages to hold off Matt Laubscher for a few more laps to come in P6 and P7. Gavin Petty stays in the top 10 in P8 after that incident earlier on, and his teammate Sam Herman behind in P9. So that was absolutely stunning throughout, and I must admit, Seb, I've thoroughly enjoyed our evening here at Hockenheim.
So have I. That was an amazing race, and it's so good to see these F3 cars being able to follow so closely together. It just gives you such an amazing race. But ultimately, congratulations to Jerome for, as you're right, a commanding and dominant race win there, as we see Duncan Watts.
Jerome, very, very happy to see you back up the order. Duncan Watts up 11 positions there, you just saw on your screen. David Hatton here up 9 positions. Brilliant race from David Hatton. He's going to come in P22 there, so great stuff from Dave. Really, really great racing there from all of our drivers. We've seen a couple of incidents. We obviously saw that big smash earlier on in the race. A shame that we saw a few drivers get lost, obviously, in the pit lane after that. Paul Busby being one of the drivers that we saw involved, and a number of others. We've had blue flag incidents and all manner of other racing overtakes and fantastic action this evening. So, here are your results for the evening. So Jerome Lamy comes in P1, followed by Gavin Petty, and then we've got Lee Aberdeen there in P3. Following on from them, that's the wrong order. That's the qualifying results.
Qualifying results. I was about to say, I don't remember it being a 10th between Gavin and Jerome.
Anyway, I tell you what, we'll instead of that, we'll tell you what's coming up next. We've actually got a couple of more races. Oh, is that still the qualifying result? No, we've got a couple more races coming up for you in the next couple of weeks. So October the 19th, again, same time, same place, we'll have Mosport. And then following on from there, on October the 26th, we will have WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, a brilliant circuit and absolutely excellent if you get to watch the Indy cars that were there recently, where Roman Grosjean was absolutely storming through the field. Now, your race results on the screen now. Jerome Lamy ahead of Scott Tuffy, and then following them in 3rd, Lee Aberdeen. We then got Josh Wilson in 4th, followed by Alistair Hay, James Cockram, Matt Laubscher, Gavin Petty, Sam Herman, Dan Mould, Sean Barnett, Chris Robinson in 12th, and then Mitchell Webb, James Parfitt, Ben White, Dare Flock, Duncan Watts, Alex Hopkins, and then Ryan Annals, Craig Tillotson, Mark Hudson, David Hatton, Stuart Milne, Patrick Rowlands, and Colin Nicol for the top 25. Following on from them, we've got Jack Ralph, Andrew Morris, Fraser Garrity, Martin Devine, Roxy Gibson, Paul Busby, Matt Cox, Stephen Hobbs, Craig Walters, Mark Murphy there in 35th, rounds out the grid. Brilliant racing this evening, as we've said. So here are the championship standings. So Lee Aberdeen didn't quite manage to make his way to the top. Scott Tuffy in P1 now in the league, followed very, very closely. 4 points between him and Lee Aberdeen. So this is really hotting up to be a fantastic season of Formula 3. And then Sam Herman there in 3rd position. Alistair Hay comes in 4th. And And then James Cochran with 249 points there in 5th. I won't read the whole lot out, but we have got some fantastic fights forming up. As you can see there down in 14th, 15th and 16th, we have 3 drivers all equally on 181 points. So very, very close battles that we'll have to watch throughout. Dan Mould and Chris Robinson join each other again, equal there, 23rd and 4th with 133 points. So plenty to keep an eye on in terms of developing stories as this season goes on. Now, if you want to get involved in this, it's www.facebook.com/iRacing UK. Speak to a member of the team. They'll get you invited to the Discord, and you can then sign up for a future league. If you prefer Twitter, it's at IRUK_team. Now, I've got to say a very big thank you to all of our drivers this evening, our viewers who have tuned in, and any subscribers to the channels. A very big thank you to Chris and Seb, obviously, for helping me out provide the broadcasting this evening. We've loved bringing you the race here at Total Sim Sport, and it has been an absolute pleasure for us. Seb, any final remarks here this evening from Hockenheim after what has been a brilliant spot of racing on this Tuesday night?
I think just congratulations to the competitor. That was we had a few incidents, but that was remarkably clean racing and some really close battles. So well done to everybody that raced, and that was the standards were impeccable, and ultimately huge congratulations for Jerome for that commanding victory.
Well, that is your lot here on Tuesday night. Thank you very much for joining us. I've been Nick Allen, and Seb, you've been fantastic with me this evening, and a very big thank you to Chris again. We'll bring you the next round next week from Mosport. Thank you very much.